for the RoboVision stuff. I had a guy once ask me what computer I was using back then in '87. And I said, I think I had a calculator so I could do my invoicing.
Remember that back then, this wasn't done on a computer. This was all done photographically and optically. One of the things that was a little tough was to try to come up with what they wanted RoboVision to look like.
I started off shooting some camera and animation camera stuff, and I kind of got into animation, so it was really more of a tactile, hands-on thing. But it also gave you time to think about as you're drawing the stuff up. You're looking at the scene, you're watching it, and your ideas come. It became pretty intriguing that this was pretty different.
Let me see.
What I came up with was kind of a video line. It wasn't actual video, it wasn't photographed off a video, it was actual optical printing with two sets of lines. One set of lines to lay in the first image, every other line, and then the next set of lines, and I kind of shifted it a little bit so it looked like it had kind of a jagged appearance.
It was a very technical process in those scenes because there was going to be a grid. You know, give me a grid.
Give me a grid. Got it? There. Target.
And coordinating everything with what was going to be on the screen later, making sure that we were all looking in a particular direction at the same time, and it was a monumental task.
Now follow.
And it was basically following the pen.
It was like all hands on deck because this stuff was really, really tedious. Things like the targeting, as an example, would be hand-drawn art. We would actually, on a clear cell, paint the cross and the box on separate layers. We would then paint black outside of them, cover them with exeter paper and black tape. That's really, at that time, all we really had. It seemed like it was ridiculous now to talk about it.
What, are you kidding?
This is in the 80s, right?
Yes. We project the work print down, line the artwork up, plot it out, and then bottom light the art.
I did a lot of optical printer testing of different types of effects to show to Paul and get an idea of what it was that he liked.
You'd have the crosshairs animating, then you'd have another element of the box, and either we could basically do a second exposure where we'd have the box animate on and off, or Pete could do that in the optical printer. It really all depended on what the shot was at the time. Pete could then go into the printer and color and add a diffusion to give it a glow and do these multiple passes and stuff to give it a kind of a stylized look so it wasn't just so raw.
You know, to make it look like it was some form of digital technology without actually using any digital material or effects.
All the visuals on Robo's POV came from sounds that John Pospisil had made from an ARC 2600, which were beeps and dips and zips. You could control these early analog synthesizers to make any kind of sound you wanted, but it took a very long time to do.
Most of the text came from like Kodalith on high contrast film, which gave you a stark, contrasty black and white image. There were pages of font that you could buy that you could basically paste up like in the old publishing days. Pete was really kind of the master of designing stuff on the optical printer.
Voice stress analyzer. 1, 2.
The voice analyzer, that I actually photographed off of like an oscilloscope and then composited that into the shot.
I had to envision what the visual effects team was going to do. So I would get a sketch that I could see, but it was very difficult for me to actually, do the timing, except from the way the people read it.
You can sort of imagine it when it's written, but how well it was done, that was really incredible.
Give me a full frame.
I think it really added to the whole, futuristic feel of the movie and it being different than any other kind of science fiction movie.
So I just cut it normally, then the visual effects guys timed it out for me.
Say there was probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 shots. Like,
I fucking love that guy!
Verhoeven came to me one day and he said, I need you to take Nancy Allen and teach her how to shoot, because she doesn't know how to shoot. And I want you to teach her to run like a man. And she goes, oh, Verhoeven.
It was very different than anything that I had done before. For me, what was great about it is that I had so many women, young women, sometimes little girls write to me about that character and how it made them feel like they could be really important and do something really important in their life. Wow, yeah, a woman can be that tough too.
You know, they put us behind glass so that they could dolly across in front of us with all of us firing.
They're all coming down on it like a dolly, like, and everybody's shooting over their heads and stuff. And I was like, Lord, I want to shoot anybody.
They were blanks, obviously, but I just remember being very loud and all that.
The noise and everything in reality was really, it was definite.
The Robo gun presented a very interesting challenge because it had to be this huge gun that's bigger than all the others. The scene in the shooting range where you see it back there, it had to stand out. It had to be a reason for all those other guys to stop shooting and look. The actual firing, they sweetened the hell out of that with so many other guns. And John Pospisil, who was our mad genius, he made all kinds of synth sweeteners and just made it huge.
To see that freaking creation and those cannons that he pulled out of his thing and started blasting away with, it was kind of great. It was very cool.
And I remember the entrance of RoboCop into that scene and how exciting it was.
To see that character in that full regalia with a gun was just frightening.
Hey, Louis, it's Super Cop.
Look at that fucking gun.
That fucking gun!
I was so cool because I got to say fucking on film. I thought it was great.
At first, I was very interested in the Israeli Desert Eagle as RoboCop's gun, because that was a new gun. But when we saw it with the costume, it was like a tiny toy.
And they said, well, our big problem is the finger doesn't fit in any triggers. And I said, well, you know, I have a gun in my car gun, that I'll show you. Being from Texas, you know, we all have car guns. I had a Beretta 93R in my vehicle, and I showed him the extended trigger guard that allowed the RoboCop finger to go in with the glove on. At that point, we sat down with the 93R, and then Paul Verhoeven and I drew what he wanted to see.
And we sat down one afternoon and we designed that gun. And it was one of the most creative moments of my life.
Gonna need some major firepower.
They wanted sights. I did the vent rib on the top. We were adding texture, so that's why it's finned.
The object is to make it visually interesting and to make it also functional.
They were going to do a lot of lower shots and looking up under the gun and everything. And I said, well, if we do that, we need to put the flame out the side. The 3 ports in the front are to give us the bow tie flame. The gun is capable of firing 3-shot, 7-shot, or full auto, depending on the counting mechanism in the side that we put in. The standard gun fires 3-shot bursts only, or semi-auto.
And working with Randy, it was so much fun.
I went to Ed's place and he wanted to see what the gun fired like and everything. So I said, well, let's just shoot it in the bathroom.
Wow, I never thought that was going to happen.
Yeah, and I think he was a little amazed.
I remember there's a picture of us. It's me, Sage Parker, Tyrese Allen, Miguel Ferrer. We had been sitting around for like 3 hours, just melted away. You know, sometimes it was like that, just sitting around for hours until they could figure out what to do next, you know, because there was a lot of technical things involved, you know.
My directing was more movement directing. It was not about character acting, you know. I mean, the character was like, bang.
The reason that they needed a second unit director was because Paul was on a very tight schedule, so he had to keep moving and moving and moving. And in some of the sequences, he couldn't get all the coverage that he wanted. So I shot close-ups of the targets getting shot and different characters reacting to RoboCop.
On the set, you knew that was a cool gun. And I think it's one of the coolest guns there is.
Those blanks, as far as I know, are the most powerful blanks ever been used in a movie.
We ended up with something much more beast-like and huge and a little more grotesque, and a little more confused and unsure of itself than what we'd started in the beginning. And consequently, I think a lot more human.
This guy is really good.
He's not a guy, he's a machine.
What are they gonna do, replace us?
When he does the spinning of the gun and she remembers and recognizes that that's probably him, that's someone who really pays attention. This is what says a lot about her. She really pays attention. She doesn't miss anything, because that could be something that you could forget in a second. But she's very sharp in that way.
Robo team made a leg that sits vertically, and it's just to the hip. One guy opens the doors with cable operation. Another guy makes the holster go out, weapon goes in, holster goes in, doors closed.
One of the many surprises about seeing the movie was just you had no idea what the sound effects were going to be.
Well, back in the days before there was paper and people used cuneiform on clay tablets, there were things called VCRs. So Robo mostly was a Betamax and a VHS VCR loading movement. And we cut them so that they matched action. And when sounds match action, they tell the truth.
The lead editor on Robo was Dave Whitaker, and he even wrote this document. It was like a 12-page document, How to Cut Robo, that had all the numbers of the library and all the different servos, little diagrams on, the sound of this and the sound of this.
And all the little stuff that they put in post for the whole movie. Every little detail just really helped to bring him alive.
John P. is the mystery man. You'd ask him to make something and he'd come back with something a couple days later that was just absolutely perfect. You dropped it into picture and oh yeah, that's exactly it. He made a lot of sort of cheesy, synthy sweeteners and things to accent stuff. This is before the digital age, and it was all cut on magnetic film. So you have hundreds of these reels sitting in a hallway waiting to be dubbed, and it was a glorious sight seeing all these dubbers with all these reels of sound going back and forth in sync while they dubbed the movie in the theater. It's really a monumental job.
Even though the number crunchers were trying to, no, we're not spending another dime on this thing, Saul Lameda got us another $200,000 or $300,000 for the sound effects. And it won the Academy Award for sound effects.
Just being there, I felt as if I was walking 4 feet above the ground. And then when I got home from the Oscars, Peter Weller had sent me 24 yellow roses to say congratulations.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
Peter is not only a wonderful actor, but he's probably one of the most disciplined people I've ever met in my life.
He took it very seriously. He's great. He's very intense and intelligent actor.
When he stepped on the set, he was that guy.
The first day on the set, he announced to everyone, "Call me Robo."
Robo, excuse me, Robo.
When I first got there, I said, "What's this Peter Weller like?" And they said, "Well, I don't know. I guess he only wants to be called Robo or Murphy." I was like, what?
When Peter told me that when he's in the police suit, I'm Murphy, and when I'm in the RoboCop suit, I'm RoboCop, I just looked at him and went, sure. and that irritated him to death.
Don't you have a name?
So I just decided that I wouldn't talk to him because I wasn't going to try to be friendly with some guy and be calling him Robo. He was always telling jokes and stories and playing his trumpet, which sometimes got on people's nerves.
He plays a mean jazz trumpet, studying kendo, chases female cyborgs, things like that. Is he an iPad? Is he on this floor? No, he's great. He's terrific. Fun at parties. Hell of a guy, really. Wouldn't you say?
The working relationship was always good because I think, misery loves company. We both were in the same situation all day long, both of us just, sitting there going, God, is this hot? And he said, yeah. Is this miserable? Yeah.
I felt like a giant prophylactic in this suit.
There's no other way of getting around it. We got to be, I got to be here, you got to be here. And I doubled him whether he was in the suit or whether he wasn't in the suit. You had to be RoboCop. You had to feel like once you put the suit on that you weren't just a stunt guy. You had to play the part just like Peter would have played it.
I am the future of law enforcement.
That says it all, doesn't it? Thank you, Robo. It was a good job.
Thank you.
What did I tell you? Be looking for him.